What's up, guys? I am at a local nursery. It is pouring down rain, so thankfully I am pretty much the only one at the nursery right now. But we are shifting into fall. I did a video on hardening off last week, and so I just wanted to show you, if you are not starting your seeds at home and you are having to go to a nursery or your co-op or something to buy seeds or to buy transplants, these are some things that you really need to look for. So I just thought they would be helpful, practical tips. So let's get started. As you can see here, most of these starts are pretty small, and that's actually really good. These over here, these cauliflowers, are a bit bigger. One thing that's super important when you're looking for these transplants, you see how these are small, so this tells me that these have not been at this nursery very long. They probably just got these shipments in. These probably just got out of these people, the supplier that they're getting them from. These are Bonnie's. They probably just came out of their greenhouses, and that's good. That means that they haven't been sitting out here in these small cells for a really long period of time. Even these that are a bit bigger are still okay, especially in the springtime when you're shopping for tomatoes that are already starting to set fruit and things like that. They really don't need to. They need to be out in the ground. They need to be big established plants before they start setting those fruits. So a lot of times you may get to a nursery and you get distracted like me and you think, oh, they're setting fruit. That's really awesome. I'm super excited. But actually in that setting, it's really not good. Something else that is super important is you want to make sure that they're good stocky plants and they've got that deep green color. You see, this is perfect for what a cauliflower should look like. Same with the Brussels sprouts. You're not wanting something that has yellowing. Yellowing is a sign that maybe there are some deficiencies in the soil, some things that it's lacking. I actually just talked to one of our friends who runs the shop, and he said that all these just got delivered recently this week, and so that's really good. They went ahead and hit them with a good fertilizer just to try to help any shock that might have happened in the transition down here. So that's really important. One of the things that you might notice, so they've got a red romaine, a red leaf. These are the only two large varieties of lettuce that they're having, and that is one of the downfalls when it comes to buying your transplants, is there's not the variety that you get whenever you're starting seeds at home. The benefits of being able to buy your starts here, if you aren't where you can start seeds, yeah, there's not all the variety, but they're already hardened off. You know that you can go and support your local nursery or co-op or something like that. So that is really valuable. And then you can take these and immediately put them in the ground. That is something else too that I really recommend. Know before you go and get your starts or your transplants, know that you're wanting to plant those in the ground. I usually say between 2 or 3 days. If these are smaller, so these are okay, but say you have some that are more mature, they can dry out really easily in those cells, and you just want to make sure that you're getting them into the ground as soon as possible. That way that they have access to all more nutrients that you're just pouring into your soil, which is really important. Something else that is really important, you want to make sure that the starts are not root bound. And what I mean by that is usually when they become root bound, they start to grow out the bottom, which means that the roots start wrapping around themselves, and they're just really at that point way too big for the cells that they're in, which means they are just literally craving and just striving to try to get more nutrients that they're just not getting in this small cell, which is why I recommend bigger is not always better. I know, I'm the first one. I want the biggest, I want the best, but when it comes to my starts, I'd really rather have them short and stocky with good healthy leaves. You want to make sure that they have at least like 2 true leaves, and as you can see, this does. And I actually just pop them out of the little cell container. You can see there are nice white roots, which is really important, but it's not completely wrapped all the way around. You can tell that this has not been in this cell and in this soil for very long. So for me, that's super encouraging, that I know that this is a fresh new start that just got up potted not that long ago. So this for me is super ideal. You're seeing some roots, not totally root bound. It's good stocky. It's got a couple true leaves on it, but is not protruding out. So this to me would be a very ideal transplant start to buy from a store. Something pretty typical when you go, you'll start seeing like the discoloration of the leaves, whether that be yellow, and that's because they're looking for nutrients, or purple and things like that. Now obviously if you're buying like a purple kohlrabi or a red cabbage, it's going to have that red tone. But for your ones that are just your typical green varieties, you don't want, you know, that purple undertone. That means that they're looking for phosphorus. They're looking for things in the soil. Thankfully here, this lineup at my local nursery, I am really impressed with. There are none that have that weird discoloration that they shouldn't be. And actually right here, this green magic broccoli, that is the variety I started at the house. So to know that I could have come up here, these are pretty big. You can see there are some yellowing and discoloring because these are really big starts. These are actually probably bigger than what I would buy, and you can tell, because I'm going to turn the camera around, but you can tell when they start getting bigger, they start having all these other issues, and it's just because these were probably sent to them maybe a week before the other ones came in. Maybe they've been in their cells for a bit longer. These are just signs that are really important to look for, and it's pretty simple. It does not have to be overwhelming at all. I mean, you can come to the plant store. If you're anything like me, you're going to get extremely distracted when you come. Like, I cannot wait to go and look at the house plants and all the other things, but these are just some few key things to look for. Make sure they're not root bound. Make sure that the color's not changing, and when you go out to buy your transplants, it can be a pretty simple process. So this one's even not bad. You can tell that down here at the bottom, some leaves were starting to turn yellow and fall off, and even at the top they're starting to get this little yellow tone, and that is literally just because these are much more established. You can see the roots at the top at this point starting to come out, which tells me that this plant is just desperately needing a bigger container. This is a pretty small container for this big of a plant. You can also tell that the roots are wrapping around several times. You can tell that this start has been in here much longer than the other one that I showed you. Still looks healthy, but there are some signs that I'm seeing. So these are things just to take note of. Another obvious sign is if you're seeing any sort of pest damage, so any type of lacing on the leaves, you know, anything that looks like something is attacking it, I would obviously try to stay away from those plants. They're just not healthy. You might bring, you know, some of those diseases home with you, so just make sure that you're looking for the stockiest, healthiest. Like I said, these starts, I honestly haven't seen starts this good, like such a huge variety of them. I'm just super impressed with the local nursery that I'm at. They look great, but those are also signs that you want to look for. All right, y'all know I am a thrifter, so this can be good and bad when you go places. So I want to mention this because I do feel like it is worth mentioning, but knowing a few things on how to do it well. So a lot of times when they pack things in these little containers, there will be more than one plant, and so a lot of times you think, oh great, if you have that thrifter mindset like I do, oh, I'm getting 2 plants for the price of 1. And absolutely, in this one you can tell that there are several, this is a romaine leaf lettuce. You can tell in this one cell there's 3 different lettuces in there. That's great, but if you do not actually separate those out when you go and put them, say if you were to get a broccoli or a cabbage, things that get really big, these big brassicas, you do not want to plant those 2 broccoli, cabbage, any type of large brassicas together. So you wouldn't want to take this one cell and just go put it in your ground, because they're not going to thrive. So what you could easily do is separate them very gently, and more than likely you can just plant them in, you know, their own space, which is what I really recommend. You're really getting your bang for your buck. Or if you didn't want that many and you just didn't need them, you can simply just take like scissors and cut off the plants that you don't want, and they're gonna die, and it'll just put energy into that one plant. But you can really find good deals on getting more than just one plant when it comes to like your kales and your lettuces and stuff like that, which is what I like to do, because I'm getting 2 for the price of 1, especially with like your tomatoes. A lot of times they'll have 2 tomatoes growing, and that's fine. Just make sure you separate them, put them either in their own pot until you plan on putting them in the garden. It's just worth mentioning that you do need to separate them, because on a bigger variety, you just don't want that. You don't want to plant 2 of those close together, because neither one of them will thrive and produce the way that they're really meant to. All right, so let's overview, because I've got some shopping to do inside. You want good, stocky, healthy green plants. No discoloration if you can avoid it, no pests like that. Just seek out, ask, you know, go to different nurseries. If you go to your first one and you don't find what you're looking for me personally, I wouldn't compromise. Go try to check out a few and really get what you're looking for. You want to make sure that your plants are just good and established, and for me, that's worth not settling for, especially when you're buying them and you're maybe settling on not being able to have all the different varieties that you were hoping for or wanting. Bigger is not better. Make sure you guys remember that. These smaller plants will probably do so much better if you just put them in the soil and then they're allowed to thrive on their own, instead of thriving and then maybe getting stunted when you plant them out, because they've been used to trying to produce so much in such a small area. And most importantly, enjoy the process. This is super fun, you guys. Bring your kids. I got my kiddo running around right over there playing. Just make sure that you're enjoying it. Grow things that are going to bring you joy. Grow things that you know you are going to eat. I think that's also super valuable. Making sure that you're only buying enough for what you need. That way you're not wasting. For us, you know, I go through and I figure out how many I'm needing to plant per bed. I'm figuring out, okay, I can plant, you know, 6 this week and maybe 6 the other week, and that's going to be enough to feed my family, to sell, or whatever. So that's something really important too, is figuring out how much you need and what you're needing it for, whether it be for your family, maybe you're wanting to provide food for your extended family, maybe some sort of farm stand or farmer's market. Just keep those things in mind, especially when you're buying starts that maybe cost more than if you were to start them at home. Just make sure you're not overspending or buying more than what you need. You can see here they even have this tomato plant, and right there it's starting to set blossoms, and this plant is just not looking good, and that's because it has completely outgrown this little area that it's in. So I think that's a really good representation of something maybe to not look for, and just some of the signs that come with that. Alright guys, I'm about to get busy, but I hope this was a really just simple few-step process to show you guys how to pick out good, healthy plants if you're not able to start them from home. Just some tips to look for. I hope it was helpful. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'll talk to you soon.